ma'am. It is visible now,
Okay.
ma'am. Uh, so, sh madam, should we start the proceedings?
Yeah, please, please.
Yeah. I request Professor Richard to give a brief introduction of our speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now we have a second speaker of the day, Dr. Nilima Satya ma'am. Ma'am is working as an associate professor at IIT Indore. She has done PhD from IIT Delhi, MTech in geotechnical engineering from IIT Delhi, and BTech in civil engineering from Sri Venkateshwar University, Tirupati. Ma'am has received JSPS Fellowship in Geotechnical Engineering Lab at University of Tokyo, Japan. Her research field includes geotechnical earthquake engineering, dynamic soil structure interaction, foundation engineering, liquefaction modeling, landslide hazard assessment and monitoring, rock mechanics, and underground structures. She has been awarded with Career Award for Young Scientist from AICTE, Young Engineer Award in 2011 in Civil Engineering discipline from the Institute of Engineers, Young Scientist Research Award, BRNS Department of Atomic Energy, Young Woman Engineer Award, INWES, Fast Track Project for Young Scientists, Department of Science and Technology, Best Technical Paper Award IGC 2006 for the innovations in field exploration and in situ testing in December 2006. Ma'am, I welcome you on behalf of Civil Engineering Department IPS Academy for your lecture.
So good morning, I think good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you so much for the introduction. I especially thank Amit and congratulate him and his team actually for doing so many activities and technical events for the benefit of the students and the faculty members. I really congratulate Amit and IPS Academy.
Thank you, ma'am.
And also thank you so much for inviting me every time. I'm very thankful for you to be part of your activities. So first of all, I would like to talk on the research that we have been working in the last 3 years. So on landslide hazard, and so this is a case study. So I hope like participants maybe get along with this. If you have any questions, you please feel free to call, ask me in between, or you can ask me at the end through chat box. So my topic for today will be landslide hazard assessment and monitoring, and I will be talking about a case study in the Darjeeling Himalayas in a place called Kalimpong. And this is the first time we have done the in the country real-time monitoring and also the assessment part of it. So this is when you talk about disasters. See, I know that in this particular workshop or event, many people maybe talked about to you on the general perspective in a larger picture about disasters and risk, whatever. So I would like to speak on very specific issue with taking a case study, so that the research part of it can be useful for the young researchers who are doing for the PhDs or etc. Then for the especially to this landslide, 15% of the Indian landmass is vulnerable for severe landslides. Yesterday there was a news like in Mumbai Pune expressway, there are so many places, huge amount of landslides happened in the very near residential area. It's not at the along the highway or something like that. It is residential area. Assume that if, and this is a huge amount of soil mass, and if this happens at 2 a.m. or in the midnight, so you kind of risk is associated with this hazard. And if you ask me like then how to handle it, because the physics behind the landslide phenomena is very complex. Let me tell you, landslide is a very generic term, and where everything falls, like from debris, mud flow, soil slope stability issue, rock fall, everything comes under this term called landslides. So it is very generic, and every failure has its own dynamics, and it's the physics behind everything is very different. If I talk about debris flow, which will be for very long run out, distance of 3.3 kilometers. In the 2018 flood disaster, which triggered huge amount of landslide in Kerala, especially in the Western Ghats, it has like 3.3, long runoff. Okay, so in the Kuchimarla landslides, our paper will be online in landslide journal, which is the top journal in the top, 4% in the Web of Science. So it will be coming online in the next week. So it's already accepted. If you are interested, you can just follow our ResearchGate or Google Scholar thing so that you can get the paper. So coming back to this is a very, very different than a rockfall, which you can see some parts of Uttarakhand and other things. So what we have started we started this project in the support of GST in the year 2016. And that what we have been, as I said, this is the first time because many people have been done evaluation of hazard by doing some field experiments or through GIS and remote sensing sort of thing. But we really don't want to do that level. We really want to do it at very site specific, like exactly at this site, what is the hazard, quantifying the hazard, and also finding out, how to forecast it. Forecasting is very, very important, critical thing. Just quantifying a hazard is not sufficient because what do you do knowing the hazard, right? You have to work on it, right? Or like you have to save the people, so life of the people, or save the land actually, because agricultural land we are losing it, and farmers are literally becoming coolies after the particular landslide disaster, which is very serious. So that's where we thought of not only saving life and infrastructure, saving in agricultural land is also equally important. So that's why, because that is their life, and so this is how we started in forecasting part. So my presentation today will have two parts. One is the forecasting part, which I'll be taking as the first part. Through forecasting, what we have done is like we apply all the available models in the literature, starting from empirical model to the highly advanced algorithm based models, and on a particular site, and we want to see which forecasting model can give you better results and what are the controlling factors. And because data is something very crucial, we really don't have data. To be very frank, rainfall data also very difficult to get for the entire study town, something like that. Can I request the participants to mute, please? Then what we did is like, when we applied the forecasting models, so we tried to generate a regional threshold. Okay, thresholds, because rainfall is a very dynamic parameter. And even in indoor, if it rains in the indoor city, it doesn't rain in IIT campus, and vice versa. It's a highly dynamic parameter, and so we have to have a general or regional thresholds. Okay, that is one of the crucial part. So that we can do the forecasting. Any approach, when you do something, you need to have a validation. So what we propose, validation sake of the forecasting models, what we try to do is like we install the real-time monitoring, like wireless sensor networking system, where we put the ground tilt sensors into the active slope of this particular region, and where it collects the ground data, displacements of the ground data every 10 minutes. And we do have a weather station along with a digital rain gauge, etc. And then I do get every 10 minutes the rainfall data from my digital rain gauge, and then that data we started analyzing it so that the forecasting models can be validated through the real-time ground movement data. Okay, so that by integrating both the things, a kind of warning can be generated. So this is the actually overall big picture of this particular presentation. Let me go in detail again. The first part, as I said, forecasting part. So these are the models that we applied. As I said, we started with a basic empirical model where we try to create, so let me tell you, completely all the work that I showed on this slide with all the models has been very well published. Top papers, more than 15 journals might have been there on this particular area from this slide. So you can go back, refer our papers. If you are interested, feel free to contact me. I'll be very happy to help you in whatever way, for any sort of collaboration also. So first thing that what we started is empirical model, where we created the ID for the region, and then we also applied the probabilistic approach. Then using Bayesian one-dimensional and two-dimensional Bayesian theory, Then hydrogeological model, which is a mathematical model. So where we have applied a fire model. I'll explain it. This is one of the very interesting method that, at least to me, though we didn't get a good match with the valid real-time data, because what I want to tell you is like we applied all the methods for a particular site because this is the first time we really want to see which one will be better. Okay, but don't say that, if I say that, this method is very well good for the, so it may be site specific. Maybe it doesn't apply the same way if you go to some other landslide site in Western Ghats. It may be different because the geological, hydrogeological, geotechnical, it's very site specific. I cannot apply the same model, it's well and good everywhere I can apply. No, you have to work on every model, because these are all basically mathematical models, and considering different set of equations, governing equations. So you cannot come up with just one model. It will be universally applicable or like universally fine kind of thing. So, and then we also apply TRIGRS model. It's a physical based model. I'll explain you all the models. Then the highly advanced algorithm models using CTRL and Sigma model also we applied. These are two different models which are both comes under algorithm based. And then, as I said, we installed our instrumentation. I should thank DST for funding this. And the instrumentation has 2D MEMS still sensors and with a water content sensor at every location along with the still sensor. 2D means like, it picks the ground movement in two directions. Okay, one is along the slope, which we consider as X direction. One is perpendicular to the slope, that is Y direction. And we have rain gauge and of course data logger, where data comes to my server in IIT Indore. And then we installed in 2016, but that was after monsoon, so we could not consider that year data because the data we don't have the monsoon data, right? Because most of the landslides happen during the monsoon season, so that's why we thought of starting the analysis from 2017. So right now we do have from 2017 to till date, and then this data we use for validation of these thresholds which we use. And then for validation, when we looked at the validation for each and every model, ID model ID thresholds is giving almost like 86% efficiency and with LR of 3.9. And probabilistic methods they are found. I'll explain you each and every model how it goes and all. They're in good agreement with the monitoring data, but FLIRE model, it has more false alarms. Okay, like both true false and the false negative and false positive, both that are coming around 13%. ROC curves have been plotted for physical. They were also being very good agreement. And then when it comes to algorithm based model, Sigma model is showing the highest efficiency with 90+%. And so for this particular area, especially in the lower Himalayas areas, I think Sigma model will be more of effective. And then this is the study region. This is the study region. Is called Chibo Pasture. Let me tell you, the Kalimpong is a town which you see here. It is like it's a town very, very famous for his, tourists, and it's also for the educational hub. And this particular town is like a curved shape kind of thing. You see here, this is actually Google image. On one side you have a Teesta river, and other side you have a Reli river. Okay, so that means like it's a tabletop sort of thing, and curved tabletop, and at the bottom you have two major rivers which are flowing down. So just assume that there will be a lot of toe erosion is happening also, right? From the just looking at the geological features. So यहाँ पे there is a Reli river.
Madam, the slides are not seen, ma'am.
You cannot see my slides?
Yeah, now it's
Since starting?
yeah, that's okay.
No, actually, maybe that will be from your side, I think, because in our system we are able to see all the slides.
Sir. Slides are visible.
Yeah, ma'am, it is visible. I think he might have some problem.
Okay.
Slides.
It's okay now.
Okay, can I proceed?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. So this is like a tabletop, and two major rivers are flowing at the bottom. So assume that there will be huge erosion, right? And first thing what we did is like we made a visit, because this is not at all, I never visited this place and I don't know about this particular place. I proposed some other study area, but DSC told me like, no, take this as a study area because we have serious problems. There's so many public people, like, the people are really unhappy with the government, and so DSC really want to do something for that side. So as a researcher, I'm okay with whatever study area. So I started with this. So first thing is like I visited with my students sometime in 2016, and I'll just let you know, because when we go into the field and do the test or like monitoring, how difficult and challenging it is, but it is really enjoying also. So when we started going to the site, the first challenge that we had is that people are not at all cooperative. Okay, they're very angry with the government. And if you visit, they think that you are part of some government representation. So, and second challenge that we had is like they won't speak Hindi or Bengali. My student was from West Bengal that time. So they are speaking a Nepali, kind of language. Okay, and it was really difficult to communicate. Okay, then luckily we found an NGO called Save the Hills. Okay, the NGO has been started by a retired army officer. So he helped us, Praful Rao, and he really helped us, for the local support. I should thank him, because otherwise it's very difficult, to install, because safety of the sensors is also very, very important. Because if you put a rod and next day if you come, the rod will be disappeared, right? And people will sell it for 100 rupees and they don't even understand the value of that, and your data will always go off. So this kind of thing. And if you see here the white line, this is actually our track. Okay, when we walk from up to the down, see this is a sloping this side and this side, right? Eastern and western side. So one side of the slope, when we track down, okay, along the path, so this is our track, GPS track. And then what we observed is like several damages have observed, like this entire face, this side, this part in the Chibo Pasture comes here. And this part of the slope is very much severely fragile and very, very severe in terms of landslides. And you can see some of the fresh slides over here. And these blue lines is nothing but, these are all local drainage network. Okay, because when water, rainfall comes, so water drain along the side, because it is like a tabletop. And so this is river at the bottom. So this is a drainage pattern, drainage network pattern. And they locally call this as Jora. And there are so many Joras, and these are some of the schools are there. So there is something like, there is a school over here. And I'll show you some of the photographs of the school, like huge damages, and it's very, very fragile location. So what we identified is like, okay, this orange line, bigger oval, is very, very fragile zone. Okay, compared to this side slope, this side is very severely fragile. And then this orange is the area where we decided to monitor. Okay, the decision we have taken is because of safety, and we have also identified the this is the first thing that we have done when we started looking at the field visit. So as usual, we, as I said, like, we have done the recognized survey in the first visit and extensively went along the slopes, walked almost down and up. And then with the support of this local NGO, then we collected, obviously, as a geotechnical engineer, you do collect the soil. We collected a lot of soil samples and started looking at, how the properties of the, at least geosynth characteristics of the soil. Then looking at some landslide and land use and land cover map. See, as I said, this area is a very tourist attractive place, and people are building a lot of hotels, and it's expanding. The city is expanding, and it's also educational hub. If you see here, the red patch, it's on the top, and this is along the slope down, right? And this is actually the built-up area. People have built extensively on the top, and along the slope also the built-up area is coming up. Even the hotels of 5 stories are also coming along the slopes. So these kind of things, this is a land use land cover map of the city. And then if you look at the drainage map of the Kalimpong, so this is the drainage network map. So whatever rain water comes, okay, run out. So it just takes the slopes along downside, both eastern and western. And when it's going down, obviously it gains the strength, right? And so the stream order is getting increased from to 4th order. And when we looked at, this is of course not to scale. This is the drainage map of the town. So the city was like this, and then it's slowly expanding. Then the things are going down like this. Okay, and Let me show you some of the photographs of damaged photographs during our first visit. I can see there's a culvert has been damaged, and this is not very old culvert. It's just last year built. Okay, and that means like 2015 built, and 2016 they got the cracks like this. This is the major road. If this got cut off, the entire town will be in isolation. So it is NH31A. So you can see here that along the sides of the road, you can see the very distinct cracks. And of course, there were cracks along the small houses. And, this lady was so upset with us. Anyway, so mud flows and debris also occurred at many locations. See, when we took the photo from the other side of the mountain, so fresh slides, okay, and several damages. Every year we get so many pictures of damages from this site, okay, because now I have a student, she is a computer science BTech student, and she is actually volunteering to share data and other pictures, okay. And he's the one who did work on this particular project. He's right now doing PhD at UTS Sydney. So obviously, once we get the shears and parameters, we do slope stability analysis. We also started looking at it, but the factor of safeties were much coming less than the IS as per the IS provision. So I just skip that. So let me start with detailing what we have done exactly. So this is the work that I'd like to present now. So first one, as I said, we started with empirical rainfall thresholds. So when we started in 2016, we could not get a rainfall data as well. It was such a difficult task to get the rainfall data as well. And one, the rain gauge was being operated by GSI, and but of course you don't have, it gives you daily rainfall, but in a day rainfall might have happened at only particular time, and landslide is also happening at a particular time. When you want to correlate, like what is the threshold for how much rainfall the landslide is triggered in this particular site, so you need to have a hourly rainfall at least, right? Because every hour, how much is the rainfall, the pattern. But we got it daily rainfall in the starting. So because of the data constraint, we started with the data. So initially we got the data from 2010 to 2016. So we started looking at whatever available in the first analysis. So then what we have done is like we use the ID thresholds, okay, rainfall threshold modeled like this, like based upon the landslide inventory data. We try to build that, and then using the rainfall data, we started looking at antecedent rainfall. Antecedent rainfall is nothing but rain. As I said, rainfall is having dynamic parameters like earthquake. Rainfall is also very dynamic. It is not just rainfall intensity or duration. There are many other parameters like cumulative rainfall, antecedent rainfall. Okay, so we have to look at different parameters of rainfall, which can be properly correlated or properly considered for threshold estimation. So what we have started with is antecedent rainfall. Antecedent rainfall is something like this. If a rainfall happened for the last some days, okay, so the pore pressure start building it up in the soil, right? So, and because of the increase of U, the shear strength will go down, and then the soil will fail. So nothing but the slope stability issues, right? The soil fail. When it comes like that, what is happening is like the pore pressure to get that build up to that you should rise, right? So that effective stresses become zero. So that doesn't happen with one day rainfall. It might be first initially, the strata might be dry, water comes, it makes the soil saturated, and then after some time, pore pressure starts increasing, right? So that means the rainfall on that day of landslide event is not important. For me, the cumulative rainfall, whatever happened before that landslide event is important. So that's I mean to say here is an antecedent rainfall. So we'd like to see that particular parameter. So this is the cumulative rainfall, for from year like 2010 to 2016. And then this is the actually methodology that we have considered. So we have considered the rainfall event and also landslide event. So we started looking at the distribution and in terms of ID relation. So we have considered, initially we got 99 landslide events data, and then but we have considered only 61 because that time there was Sikkim earthquake, and so that's why we discarded that landslide that happened during that year completely. So finally we have taken very 61 only in that region. So then we started looking at the ID relation for this region. So this is our ID threshold that we could develop for the using empirical approach for the Kalimpong. So as I is equal to 3.52, this is from our analysis. And when we compared it with the other thresholds at the global, regional, and the local thresholds already in the literature, so it was very much, in line with the thresholds. Okay, so this is from the Gujrati's paper. So we try to compare that. And then, as I said, we want to see what is the antecedent rainfall which can trigger. If continuously there is a rainfall of 3 days, it may cause landslide, or it may not, or 7 days, it may or may not. So we really want to see what is the antecedent rainfall effect on the landslides in this region. So what we started is we have seen the 3-day, 7-day, 10-day, 15-day, 20 and 30-day antecedent rainfall, and we started looking at cumulative rainfall on the day of failure with the cumulative rainfall before failure. So it's a 45-degree line, and then we started looking at this, which will be having the maximum match. Okay. So this is our conclusion. So what we found at the end of the analysis, so this is our threshold line, if your rainfall, when you plot your mean rainfall intensity with the duration, which is very simple, right? When that particular town, many people have rain gauges in their house also, small rain gauge they used to install, and it doesn't cost you much, right? So if you have, and it can be measured, you can just make a normal small rain gauge. You can measure at least approximately how much rainfall occurred in your region. So what we found is if you have a 5-day rainfall with an average precipitation of around 0.46 mm per hour, then that is a possibility of it causing a landslide in that region. So this is very easy for the people also. Anybody can put up a small rain gauge on the top of their house and then monitor it. If there is, at least in the monsoon, and if it is this kind of flash flood sort of thing, and if there is a 24-hour rainfall, and if its intensity is higher than 0.95 mm per hour, then also it can trigger an event. So then when we want to correlate with the antecedent rainfall, if you have a cumulative rainfall of 133 mm in a over of 20 days period, which is very common in this region. Okay, it continuously have issues from end of July to almost October. It's still raining over there. So 20-day period, then there may be possibility. So this is our first empirical threshold. So then the second level, when we looked at FLAIR model, as I said, I really like this method. It's a mathematical model where it has two modules. First module is called RL module, called rainfall landslide module, and the second one is a forecasting module. Okay, so in the first one, what we do is we calculate a parameter mathematical function called mobility function. This we applied even for Western Ghats. The paper is under review. Maybe by the end of December, we can expect that it comes online. In the first module, in the RL module, what we do is we calculate a mathematical function called mobility function. If you see here, there is something called y of t, okay, which will take many parameters, not only geological, it takes hydrological parameters, and it also takes the infiltration equations and other soil characteristics, hydraulic conductivity and other parameters of soil it considers, and then it will calculate. And this is a real-time thing. It depends upon if you have a digital rain gauge, like in our case. I'll show you some of the plots of that, and it automatically plots the YT curve. Okay, so then what we have to do is once you calculate this mobility function, okay, from the first module, then you have to check it in the forecasting module. So for that, you have to give some limitations. So, and then if your mobility function is less than the limiting value, then obviously there is no problem, no landslide. But if it is exceeding, then you have to create some attention alert or the alarm. So how to create that? So then what we have done is the criticality, to define the criticality. Okay, so what we have done is we have made 0.8 times of the critical value and 0.6 and 0.4 times of the critical value to create attention, alert, and alarm. Okay, so this is the approach that we use. And to calculate this mobility function, what we started is we have taken the past major event, and this when we started in 2016, right? And the year before that, there was a major slide happened in Chibo area on 1st July. And with a heavy rainfall. So what we have started is there is a rainfall, okay, and then rainfall occurred. So this is a rainfall, now casting, then occurrence time, it occurred for some time. And then whatever related to the pore pressure problems, whatever it is, after some time landslide occur. And then from the onset of impact, okay, so this is what is called evolution delay. And then what we want to find out, we have taken the past event. We have taken the past event of 2015. You can see here the rainfall data of 2015 we have taken. Data we have taken. So see this rainfall data, okay, and then we calculated the mobility function for this data. Okay, so this is actually when you give the inputs and including rainfall data, it calculates a mobility function like this. Okay, and if you see here, the highest value of mobility function is something around 4.72. If you see that past data, we have taken this because we have to establish this value for that particular region. It is a region specific value, okay, because you have to give a lot of parameters related to, you know, hydrogeological and also geotechnical. Anyway, so this particular event happened because there's a huge amount of rainfall of 227 mm in a span of 2 days. 2 days. So then mobility function of 4.72 for happened on the 1st of July. On the same day, there was an event. Okay. So as I said, like, you know, the maximum was 4.72. So we created different levels of alarm, alert, and attention. As I said, like, you know, 0.8 times of 4.72. This is our judgment. And 0.6 times as alert of 4.72 and 0.4 times as an alert. So this is a real-time curve which can go. So now we started looking at every year. 2016, this is one, like after that 17, 18, 19, 20 also. Okay. So this is very easy. You have your rain gauge and you already had your parameters, site-specific parameters for the Chibo region. And this is already there. If it exceeds here, people will be alert, right? So they'll be careful. If it happens at 8 in the night, so they'll be more careful because landslide may happen in the midnight. Okay, so that way, you know, the forecasting will be very useful. Next one, really, we also applied the TRIGRS model, which is a physical-based approach. Okay, and what it do is like it calculates the factor of safety. I hope, like, you know, you are from civil engineering background, at every pixel, okay, in the given area and with the time. Actually, factor of safety will depend with time because it depends again on the pore pressure characteristics. So before the rainfall, it will be different. At the time of rainfall, it will be different. After that, it will be different because dissipation of water also happens. So because of drainage characteristics. So that means like factor of safety is not uniform, right? It will be changing with the time, with rainfall and time. So what we have to do is like we have to calculate at every pixel. So what we applied this, and this model, as I said, it considers, this is the conceptual diagram of this particular model. So if you see here, it assumes that there is an impermeable substrata and water table, you know, below the whatever the ground level. So this is again we have considered the 2015 event because that was a major event happened. And I'll just skip this. So this is how it looked like at the time just before starting of the rainfall. Okay, this is the factor of safety at every pixel with 24 hours, 48 hours, and 96 hours. See, guys, the factor of safety are not uniform because it depends upon the rainfall and also the ground condition. Then we validate that 2015 data, July 1st event, okay, through ROC curve, so that we have to validate it. So we can see here the factor of safety map for 2016. Again, we try to apply. Then of course, this is already published, so it was not updated in this slide. And the last one is the algorithm-based approaches. In this, we use two approaches which are widely used in worldwide, especially they've been done more extensively in the Italy. So then we started applying the model on this particular site study region. So first our model we applied is CTRL model. It's algorithm based where you have to extract rainfall events and from daily rainfall series. Then you have to reconstruct the triggering conditions for the landslide so that forecasting for the future year can be possible. So it takes a lot of inputs actually, and then so we have developed the ED thresholds, which is a more of probabilistic approach. So ED thresholds for this region again have been done. And the second one is like we started comparing this, with the past landslides in that region so that the validation is possible. Then second approach in the CTRLT, algorithm based models is Sigma model. This is also very interesting thing, but it's little complicated. So this is actually the methodology for this. So it has a factor called sigma. This is for different sigma values. Okay, so of course, again, mathematical value, you will be finding out with the cumulative rainfall, it will be calculating the curves. Okay, what we do have to do is like this factor like 1, 1.5, 1.75. It's a trial and error. You have to do this for different trial and errors like this, and wherever your true alarms curves are coming up, you have to merge with this particular sigma. So this is a region specific value. Okay, so we started by doing different trials from 1 to 2.5 sigma. Then if you see here the dotted line, if you see here, this is for 1.5 sigma, and I think 1.5 sigma is giving a good match for us. And this blue solid line is a false alarm line. So we don't want any false alarm. So that means like you have to merge this blue line with a dotted red line so that your false alarms can be reduced, so that your forecasting will be more authenticated and validated. So I mean, this is very, for every trial you have to do it. Okay, so that this gap can be reduced between this dotted red line and the solid blue line. So when you looked at different confusion matrix for validation of the sigma model, in general what happens is like we may get the alarm like this. It can be true positive in the sense like if the landslide occurred and you also can predict it. Okay, so that means it is true positive. Okay, so that means it happened and you also could predict before. Okay, so and then if you say false positive, it happened. Okay, you predicted but it didn't happen. Okay, that means landslide prediction was fine, it is positive, but if you go to the real field, wahan pe landslide nahi hua hai. This is called false positive. Similarly, false negative, landslide occurred but you cannot predict it, your model could not predict it, so it's called false negative. So we really don't want these false alarms. So this is F here. Okay, number of false alarms, as I said, 13% was false alarms are coming, which is not good actually. Why? Because false alarms should be as minimum as possible, because people will not trust that. Okay, that warning system, people will not have trust. Even if there is a real true alarm, people may not evacuate or will not take precautions. So then true negative, both are not happening, it's fine, very good. Then we looked at the efficiency of this model, and then it was very much effective. As I said, efficiency was around 92% with likelihood ratio of 11.28. Okay, so this is the first part of my talk. So I'll be talking about the second part. Again, I'll say that first time in the country, nowhere real-time monitoring has happened. So I feel like we are like I don't say that it's a great work from IIT Indore, but I say that it could happen because of the support from DST or with the efforts of my team. So I feel like very much happy, because this particular I might have given this talk in the last 1 year at least like 20 places. So I feel like very happy to share this. So what we have done in the monitoring part, okay, it's not easy, because in the Indian setup, location of where to put up a sensor. If you put up a sensor, the site is not responding, landslide is not happening, then there is no point of putting a sensor. That's the first problem. Second problem is like, you have very minimum amount of money, okay, because monitoring is very effective thing, and we cannot monitor for larger areas. We have to monitor for smaller areas. So that means like we have a budget constraint where we have less number of sensors. So you have to keep the sensors at a place where you get the data, right? So that is the second thing. Where to locate the sensors is also not easy. You have to do a lot of analysis for it. We have done that optimistic, location analysis and all blah, blah, blah. So anyway, finally we identified. But once you identified, that site should be like, somebody's private land, right? Because safety issue, you cannot put it up in a public place or something. Okay, safety is a big concern. So then we want to place it in some we have to place it in some farm areas or in some school or whatever it is, so that people can take care of it, so by paying some amount or something like that.
Madam, we are not getting your voice.
Sorry, I'm taking water.
Oh, no problem, ma'am. Sorry.
So we installed tilt sensors, okay, like this. This is a sensor we installed at 3 meters below the ground. And then along with the tilt sensor, we have a water content sensor also. And then volumetric water content sensor. So then all this data from the sensors is coming to the transmission unit, and from there, it's get transferred to the server. So this is actually through a mobile network. So of course this I'll just skip. So this is how the data look like, the real time, like, you color is of course area, and for each sensor you selected, you can get the data like this. Okay, so then again rain gauge data also, for every 10 minutes we'll get the data. Okay, so as I said, like in the first slide, along that oval, orange oval, where we track down. So that is a cheapo area, and then we started putting our sensors in there. Initially, we started putting 6 sensors. This is the location of the sensors along with the rain gauge. So because of the, as I said, like, initially we got less budget. So, and that too, first time we are doing it, even like, that time DST were not sure that, how effective this system is and all. So that's why, we went with this. And this is the photos, like, as I said, we have taken somebody's private land. You can see here somebody's house, the nursery, okay, and somebody's, agriculture land, so that, you pay some little amount to them so that they'll take care of your system, right? So that was the idea. So then data started cutting from 16 after monsoon, but 16 data we discarded. As you see here, 16 data we discarded. So from 17, we started getting the data. Okay. And of course, 19 data, 20 data also we have, but this is not updated. So if you see here, so there's a cumulative rainfall data is coming every 10 minutes because of the rain gauge. And then, of course, cumulative rainfall data. And then different sensor data also we started getting it up. So tilt, so as I said, 2D, right? 2-dimensional tilt, we get it along the slope and horizontal to the slope. So see here, so this is the tilt data that we got it. Then this is the volumetric water content data. For all the 6 sensors, now the interpretation part is very, very challenging. Okay, because now you have to interpret this data with the real signatures, ground signatures, and also whatever your forecasting models. So when we first year, when we looked at 17, the 2 sensors had a huge amount of response. You can see the change in the slope of this tilt angle is very drastic, right? So other sensors were not responded in the starting. And to be frank, we were very unhappy that only 2 sensors could do. And when we zoomed in, so looking at every day change in the angle of the tilt, there is a steep rise in the angle. Okay. This paper is in natural hazards. And also another one is also about this monitoring system in sensors also. Okay. You can check that papers, 2 papers, natural hazards and sensors. And then we looked at, every day, how is it, related with the rainfall and water content, etc. This is actually the location of the sensors. When we looked at the little bigger picture, there is the sensor 2 and sensor 3 had a highest, response. Okay. And the response was something like this, subsidence sort of thing we observed. And we also found out there is a 2 joras, that is streamlets are there on very near to these sensors, called locally, they called it as Pyrenees Jora and Bosi Jora. So this is actually, what we observed, after that ground signature in 2017, it was like a road like this, okay, where people use it very commonly. So there is a subsidence along this. Okay, you can see here, this is the road like this, subsidence, and our sensor was somewhere here. Okay. We just give some of the observations because they are very, very in detail observations are there. Similarly, another one here, sensor 3, the road, there is a subsidence. Okay. Looking at the failures, we can easily say that, the failures is very progressive nature in this region. Similarly, 2018 analysis also we have done. And again, 2018 subsidence, a lot of subsidence happened. You can see here, the road subsidence happened. And then very detailed analysis for, in terms of antecedent rainfall, tilt angle, when we looked at it so that, correlations can happen. This paper came in recently in a year, 6 months back in census. Then we also looked at the variation that in the last 3 years, 17, 18, 19, all 3 years, okay, with the tilt rate and the rainfall data, and also the moisture content in the thing. So this still ongoing because 2020 data also we are analyzing now because monsoon is still on. Still we are getting the data. Maybe once after the end of the monsoon in December we can start the analysis. Then coming to the conclusions, let me tell you, I really this particular project is very interesting to me related to other projects because many things we have done very first time. And very first time, not only in the Indian scenario, in the global scenario, because people either have done monitoring or forecasting. What we have to try here is like we try to apply and monitoring. We use it for only validation. Okay, validation of our forecasting models. And some of the results is like FLAIR model, of course, less amount of efficiency, but it's I really like it because the kind of analysis for calculation of mobility function and the real-time monitoring evaluation happens here. Sigma model was more effective for this sites region. Don't tell me like, ma'am, other areas also it will be more. It cannot be. You have to do the analysis in detail analysis because many factors control the landslide hazard. So some publications over here. So thank you so much. If you have any queries, I'll be happy to take it.
Participants, you can unmute yourself and ask questions if you want. Or you can mail us also. Madam, maybe they will afterwards they can mail us and we will revert you back, ma'am.
Yeah, Amit.
Yes, ma'am.
I can give my email ID and whoever interested, please feel free to mail me for any kind of details. So I'll be glad. And since it's a Corona time, I cannot take internship students, but I'm leaving my mobile number as well. But don't disturb by calling. Please WhatsApp me. I'll be happy with what. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am, for always supporting us and standing for us whenever we need your help.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you.
So we will back again at 2:30 p.m. You can also mail ma'am directly if you want.